Boom, boom, shake your room. You know. Well, hello everybody and welcome in to our Beatles Anthology discussion, Stephen, discourse, review, whatever you want to call it. We're going to discuss it, Stephen, slightly late to the party with this one. It's been out for, what, nearly a month?
Yeah.
But it's my busy time of the year. I am insanely fucking busy, and I have literally just finished the final episode 9 tonight, literally an hour ago. So we're going to discuss it, Stephen. It'll perhaps be a little sharper in my mind than yours. I crammed in 4 episodes yesterday, and I enjoyed every second of it, because I maintain, this may be a spoiler, the greatest music band documentary ever concocted. But Stephen, there's also been some controversy surrounding it. I may, when I pass it over to you, go to Reddit and try and find all the differences in the things that have been cut and the things that are obviously new. But there has been some, how shall I put it, sterilising of certain historical events. Certainly regarding Mr. John Lennon. And some people are getting their knickers in a twist. I don't think we've even spoke about the Real Love release either, so I'm sure we'll get into that at some point as well.
That's all part of the package, isn't it? So
yes.
No, I'm happy to talk about the singles as well, John, because obviously Free as a Bird was released in October, I think. So yeah, I mean, it's you know, we did the DVD review of this 4 years ago. This is going to be slightly different. It's not an in-depth review in that sense, because I think we were talking for about 2 hours on that, because we were trying to cover everything and anything in the DVD. So it might be worth putting a link in this description for that full DVD review. But this is more a perspective from the streaming version of it, rather than going through every episode or anything like that, John, because obviously we've got a new episode 9, which you've just actually watched today, and I'm sure we'll want to talk about that as well, the additional stuff that's been added into that, the sort of anticipation for episode 9. Both of us were looking much forward to seeing what was going to be included in that, in particular, obviously, the Threetles, you know, meeting at Paul's studio and in George's house as well, I think the year after. But I think in terms of what we got, and in comparison to the DVD, it is slightly different. I mean, before we came on, I was talking about how streamlined a lot of it is. They've cut a lot of the episodes down to under an hour. But I'm sure we'll get into it in terms of obviously the way it flowed and those sort of missing scenes, the additional scenes. I mean, everyone's talking about the things that were missing, but you highlighted a good point, John, about the I Feel Fine moment. And there was a lot more sort of content talking about that, which was good, because I always felt they kind of skimmed over that, because of it was more of a John thing, the I Feel Fine, the song, and obviously the feedback at the very beginning, which was kind of moving swiftly on from Paul McCartney. Didn't really want to get into too much of that for whatever reason, I'm not sure, but no, it's good to see I'm not one of these people that are saying, this is a disgrace, this is not what I expected, they've missed so much out. I've got the DVDs, I've got the VHS.
Exactly.
If I want to watch that, I'll watch them. So it was good to see, you know, a lot of new stuff in there as well. So I want to try and be as positive as possible.
And by all accounts, the United States and other markets get different versions to the United Kingdom. The actual original release in the mid-90s. The UK was longer. The United States got a significantly shorter documentary anthology experience, and obviously I got a remastered version maybe in the 2000s or whatever when they released it in DVD, and I think they were longer again than even the UK original versions. So they've been constantly changing and sort of tinkering around with the running time and the way that they structure this documentary for the best part of 30 years now. So I mean, I don't get why people are getting their knickers in a twist over the omission of certain things. You have to understand, Stephen, we discussed this in the release, the build-up to the release of this new anthology, that this was been probably aimed at newer and younger demographics, new fans coming in who hadn't seen the original Anthology. And obviously the nature of modern audiences is that their minds have been completely fucking destroyed. Their attention spans are gone because of TikTok and YouTube shorts and just short form content. They can't stick around as long. Now, even having said that, it's still 9 hours. The guts of 9 hours are watching, so it's still a relatively long documentary. But they have to make it a little bit more linear, a little bit more succinct, is the word I'll use, to entice those sort of younger audiences in. And there's certain stories, Ringo in particular, you mentioned it, Stephen, where he does go off and talk about things that's not really pertinent to the Beatles or that interesting to maybe newer audiences. So they've cut that out, they've made it a more linear, slicker experience. And I think I've watched it back to back over the last week or so. I really enjoy it, Stephen. I think it's a fresh take on it. There's some new stuff, there's some things being omitted, rightly or wrongly. But I really enjoyed other things that I've noticed. And again, I ain't seen the original in 15 years or something, so I don't know how fresh my mind is, but certainly some interesting motion graphics, what are getting done with archive photos and whatnot, instead of just cutting to nondescript fucking images of things or whatnot. They're kind of using perspective. They're cutting Baby George out and putting him in the foreground and Mac is in the background, and it's studio photographs, and they're splicing them together and giving it a 3D effect, and you're moving in and out. Some really interesting stuff getting utilised just to give something different over these interviews. Let's be honest, they're sitting at a table speaking, you've got to freshen it up. It'd be boring as hell just looking at them. So I think they've done some interesting things, there's some interesting changes. We have got some controversial stuff though, Stephen, I'm sure we'll get into. But what was your thought, Stephen, on the way? Did you notice any structural changes out with just little omissions here or there? I was reading comments and people says that they'd completely restructured the entire episodes. So it'd be the similar content with omissions, but it'd been completely rejigged entirely. So perhaps episode 1 was told in a different way. I'm not sure about that. I don't remember that.
I'm not sure about, obviously, restructuring of certain events per episode, but it's more key, it's not key scenes, but scenes that I remember that have obviously been taken away. And when things are added in, I've noticed them. Bear in mind that first time I saw the documentary was obviously on TV back in 1995, and I watched these religiously over the 8 weeks or whatever it may have been. Can't remember, and then the VHS release came in the late 1990s, and I was like £115 at the time, which is a lot of money, still a lot of money. I'll say that no one's ever gave me 100 smacks on that. But
you're a billionaire, Macca. Fucking hell.
It's one of those things that, it's in your brain, But you're right, John. Structurally, it's evolved over the years anyway, so it doesn't really come as a great surprise that it's going to happen again for a different generation. So it's just nitpicking, really. As I said, the formats are out there. Most of it's on YouTube anyway, so horses for courses.
I'm just reading, Steve. No, so the big controversy was John. Let's not beat about the bush here. They've removed the stuff about him mocking disabled people, fans. I don't think he was ever mocking disabled fans. I think it was just, you have to realise the context of the Beatles.
Yeah.
I thought about 1963, 1964.
Yeah.
What was that, Stephen?
The context of society.
Exactly.
I grew up, John, I don't want to offend anyone here when I say this, right? But I'm going to say it because it was just part of the sort of lingo. Certainly, I don't agree with it now. But as a kid, when you get a slightly overweight person in your class, and this guy just accepted this, his name was Chubby. You can't get away with things like that now, and you shouldn't really. I think people have came a long way since then. And
Stephen, I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg. I've got some stories about nicknames.
It's really just to sort of paint a picture, John, in terms of the way people used to talk. I mean, I don't want to get into it, but I used to watch the young ones, and there was a lot of things that Rick would say about certain people, and you can't do that. You know, it is offensive now, and you know, I think in terms of society we've moved on from that. You know, and I think we're a bit more open-minded, and so I'm not going to have John Lennon hung, you know, drawn and quartered for his behaviour, because that was part of society, whether it was acceptable or not, or right or wrong. It was part of it anyway, and I'm just glad that we've matured, I would like to say, you know, since
Stephen, he was 23 years of age when he was on stage in the middle of an incredible hurricane storm of absolute madness, and maybe that was his way. That's certainly what Macca and the other Beatles said. That was his way of sort of coping with the stress and whatnot of the situation. He'd kind of act out and do stupid things. We already know John was a bit, they were all clowning at that time, but John in particular had this. I mean, Stephen, I was howling watching the I can't remember what episode it was. It must have been about episode 7, I think, just after they stopped touring. The break leading up to Sgt. Pepper's, and like John comes out the Beatle. I'm not the Beatle, the Mini. Keeps saying Beatle. And goes into, obviously, Abbey Road Studios, and he gets confronted by the reporter asking him about, so you're going to take a break or not? Can you envisage a time where you don't work together? And he's kind of like going like that and trying to get by and speak at the same time, and then he almost trips, and then he kind of goes like that. He was always like that. He was always quite a energetic, physical kind of guy. He would do things like that. So, Stephen, that's one thing I don't agree with. Whitewashing history. We've kind of discussed this before.
John,
the whole.
I think they're very selective in what they want to whitewash, because, you know,
Stephen, we still see.
Been on Disney. You know, I was concerned, you know, for a kickoff, you know, when it was announced that this was going to be streaming on Disney, I thought they're going to butcher this. It's going to be half-hour episodes. Because I don't think Disney will want them talking about LSD. I don't think they'll want them talking about marijuana. You know, but they left a lot of that in. You know, some of the best stories were obviously involving that kind of stuff. You know, Macca going on live on TV and telling people, yes, I've took it. And then obviously the repercussions of that. George Martin talking about obviously Lennon having to be taken up onto the roof.
Aren't they wonderful
tonight? So I'm glad that it wasn't a total whitewash. I mean, I think they were very selective, John. Certainly the race stuff, you know, the Ringo stuff when they were going after Ringo.
Yeah.
I totally agree that is not acceptable in this day and age. And it's not really anything that is going to change the story too much either, is it?
No.
Some of the Philippines stuff was cut out as well. And then obviously the thalidomide kids stuff as well. All that kind of thing was removed completely. It doesn't really serve the story anyway, John. It's just additional stuff, and it's not really a game changer in any way taking that stuff out. I do understand why they did it though.
Did they remove an interview with Lennon after the whole Bigger Than Jesus furore, where he went in front of? I know they included one press conference, but I'm sure he was wearing like a white blazer jacket. Maybe he even had been over in the States when he went over for the second Shea Stadium performance, and he gave an interview to them, and he looked rattled. He looked a nervous wreck. I'm sure, I don't know if that was in the Anthology, the original cut, or whether that was a separate video, because I mixed them up. I watched that much Beatles stuff. I'm mixing it.
There was a period where I was watching the Beatles Anthology, the VHS, and I also had the VHS of Imagine, and a lot of the Beatles footage from that was on the Imagine documentary wasn't in Anthology. Like the guy, we just want a piece of them. That was in the Imagine documentary.
What kind of police protection?
Yeah.
No, Stephen, and I tell you one thing that winds me up, is I can't get it anywhere. I don't know what they've done with this. I'm pretty sure it wasn't in the Get Back release. But that stuff, I was just watching it a couple of years ago, an hour and a half ago. The rooftop performance, Don't Let Me Down. And when he starts singing, obviously, I'm in love for the first time, and it pans to the street. I think there's two girls walking along the street. You can hear, and there was one famous fucking version of this, where it was mics from the street level. You could hear them singing, you could hear Ringo's drums echoing through the streets of London. I don't know what's happened to that. Seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
I was listening to it, I'm like, maybe it'll appear in this. Nope. They overdub Don't Let Me Down, the actual version.
The For You Blue as well.
Well, they cut that out entirely, Stephen. That's what you mentioned, didn't you? They completely fucking... Did they not do something like that? There was shenanigans. They've cut so many things out, which is disappointing. I understand they're trying to streamline it for new audiences, and you still have the original.
But what they're trying to say, John, is that, you know, if you want to see all this, then watch the Get Back documentary, because it's all in there.
And Stephen, you've obviously got a theory about it, and I think you may be right in that they'll probably bring out a special edition version of this. And a special version of Real Love, the single, will come out with George's stuff added back in. So I'm sure they're always playing the long game here about trying to keep people engaged and bringing out new versions of it every 4, 5, 6 years or whatever, I don't know. But Stephen, I think they ticked most of the boxes. It still remains for me one of the greatest documentaries ever, not just a band or music documentary, but I really like the Neil Aspinall stuff. At the end, where he's basically saying, look, I didn't realise he had it, and Ringo said this, that he had it, some version of the anthology ready for 1970. So I can't even begin to imagine how the fuck he managed to get his hands on all that footage. Not that it would have been as detailed as what we got in 94, 95, but he must have put in some amount of work to get all that archive footage and stuff like that to try and produce some kind of anthology.
It's funny, John,
the 70s.
But that particular documentary you're talking about, The Long and Winding Road, as it was going to be called at that point, I think it was maybe about an hour and a half of footage. You know, at that point, obviously it wasn't what it became. Obviously, you know, over 25 years when it was finally released, the 25 years to get more footage, etc., and interviews and stuff. But that original documentary, which was, I think, just under 2 hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours, was the template for All You Need Is Cash. George Harrison had lent that version of it to Eric Idle and Neil Innes, so they could use that as their template for, obviously, the Rattle story. So it's quite interesting. Neil Aspinall, John, I think he's one of the unsung heroes, and what he represented for the Beatles over a good 3 decades. You know, he never sold the Beatles down the road in terms of advertising or anything like that. He always kept the brand very exclusive. Never included Beatles songs in any of those 60s compilation albums that used to come out. Same with Elvis, but you would never get the Beatles on any of those sort of 60s mixtapes or anything like that. It was all exclusive for Beatles releases and Beatles releases only. So he held that together for a good 30 years. He obviously had the battle with Apple, Steve Jobs' Apple, as well, you know, to make sure that the Beatles product was protected, you know, and having those in-court battles with that as well. And obviously the whole Alan Klein stuff as well, that Aspinall had to sift through and trying to work out. And when obviously Brian Epstein died as well, Neil Aspinall stepped up to try and make some sense of their finances. So he was always there protecting their interests and making sure that their legacy. I know John had a few sly digs at the likes of Neil, you know, that they weren't the Beatles. They thought they were the Beatles. Well, they were part of the entourage, you know, because without them, you're just 4 guys that play musical instruments. You need the George Martins, you need the Brian Epsteins, you need the Mal Evans.
Oh, Evans, yeah.
All have a big part to play in the bigger picture. You know,
John had a pop at just about everybody though, Stephen. There was no one safe from John. He had a pop at George. I don't think he ever had a pop at Ringo. Well, maybe he did, because he did make some disparaging comments about his drumming ability at times. Obviously, that pop at George, which he kept to the very end. Obviously, wasn't aware he was going to get fucking assassinated, so I'm not going to hold that against him. But they never really made amends, those two. So that's just John. He was a deeply unhappy guy at times.
It's one of the things in episode 9 that really stood out to me. It was one of the highlights, was obviously George talking about that. You know, he feels sorry for John not being able to be part of that, because, you know, a lot of water passed under the bridge since 1970. You know, they reconnected again, and John never got that opportunity. It's quite sad in a way, you know, but it was nice to hear, you know, in that acknowledgement that George was in a better place in 1995 with Paul in particular, you know, and you could see that. I mean, there's still kind of friction there. You could see, you know, we're doing Blue Moon of Kentucky. Well, we'll make sure it's the short version because I want yous out my house. So, yeah, I hope I don't have to see yous for another 40 years.
40 years, yeah. I found that quite poignant, obviously, now looking in hindsight, and I did at the time, to be fair. That obviously he was going to be gone in, 5-6 years, which is fucking crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But no, Stephen, I liked that as well. I liked what he says, that he was glad that it was done when it was done, and that there was some time allowed to pass, and they could take a break and then decompress and come back and look into it when they were actually motivated and maybe excited about getting back together and reminiscing. And obviously, with that obviously downside that Lennon's no longer with them. I liked the stuff as well, Stephen, in the studio where they had the chair, and Mac is like, it's like it's his chair, it's free, and he's not there. I liked all that stuff, so I think they handled it, Stephen. I'm not going to lie, I was expecting slightly more from episode 9. I was hoping it would be more fetal, period heavy. There'd maybe be unseen footage. There was some, but I thought there'd been a lot more. I thought there'd have been at least 35, 40, 50 minutes of them just breaking down all these songs and the process of doing it. Also, we do get that, and we've got some cool stuff. Them coming up, the chord changes. I liked what you said about I think it was Freeze a Bird. It was a really simple track, half a song. And if they brought a song into the studio back in the day when they were active, they'd say, yeah, it's all right, but I don't like this change or this chord. Maybe do something here. So that's what they did. I liked that stuff. But I wanted more of that. And I understand you're working with limited footage.
Yeah.
But I'm slightly disappointed with that.
I think a lot of the sharp view cam stuff that we saw was for personal use more than anything. I think at that point, I don't think they were really planning to, let's film this so we can make a documentary about this one day. But I think it was more about a personal sort of, thing, to take video footage. You see Paul coming in and George, chinning him about his vegetarian leather jacket, and then he's asking Ringo, is it a filmer? Yeah, you want to put it off? No, I don't want to put it off. But no, it's just little things like that. But John, I mean, there's some of it on the Now and Then documentary as well, isn't there? I mean, George is talking about Jeff Lynne's computer.
Yeah.
And also they're sitting up against the windmill on the bench, and George is playing acoustic guitar to Paul and stuff like that. But it'd be nice to have it all in the one area and the one thing, the one episode, rather than having to, that bit's on the bonus disc of the DVDs, this bit's on the Now and Then documentary, this bit's in the episode 9 of the new anthology. So it's kind of all over the place, which is a bit of a shame, because I was quite disappointed as well that there wasn't more, but maybe there wasn't more, just the way it was filmed. Overall, John, the stuff that I'd never seen before, I really enjoyed. But I was like you, the first half hour of episode 9 I felt was just like a mini version of the anthology.
Yeah, the anthology, yeah. It was like a compilation of all the greatest hits. Some stuff that was on the bonus CD gets incorporated, and there wasn't as much new stuff as I was hoping for, which is a shame, because that was kind of the main thing I was buzzing about. Obviously, great to go back and watch this great documentary, Stephen. It has been nearly 2 decades, which is fucking painful for me to say, because that makes me incredibly old. But it is. It's 15 years. That's the guts of 2 decades since I'd watched it. And there's nothing quite like watching a documentary about any band, but certainly the Beatles, and getting that experience with the music and getting to see the live performances and getting to live. Stephen, I love even reading fucking World War II novels about the Third Reich. Scummiest fuckers to ever walk the earth, I have to stress. But just being placed in that historical moment in time, and you're getting maybe diary entries from these people, and you're getting placed there, and you're living in that moment. There's something about living in that moment.
It's try to figure out an understanding of the situation, isn't it? And and
with the Beatles,
what is the fucking mindset of these people? What were they thinking?
It's not just that, Steve. It's just about being in that moment, in a historical moment, and be it via reading or watching, just there's something special about that, getting placed back. And with the Beatles, and being in the middle of this craziness, and being in the hotel suites with them, being on the stage with them, that's one of the most special things about this documentary for me.
There was more All You Need Is Love stuff, the behind the scenes stuff with George Martin, which I thought was fantastic. I've never seen some of that before. Him relaying instructions from the studio to the guys outside, and explaining the way it was recorded as well, which wasn't really covered, I don't think, in the DVD version. You know, they had a backing track, and you know they were going to work along with that. But it was just very interesting. There was moments like that throughout, and it's, as you said, it's like just being placed into the scene, you know, and you're there, and you know, almost like a fly in the wall, isn't it? You know, and I just wish. I mean, there's footage of the Beatles. It looks like around about 63 in the studio, black and white. What is that? Is there no sound to that?
Stephen,
you know,
one of the worst thing. I mean, I'd love to see that stuff, because look, again, I go through phases like every Beatles fan does, where they prefer a certain era. And 9 times out of 10, I'm drawn to the middle era: Revolver, Rubber Soul, Sgt. Pepper's. That's the era I kind of consistently get drawn back to, because they were experimenting with effects and processes in the studio. They were maturing as a band, as human beings. Music was fucking unbelievable. But watching the documentary, you are reminded with the suits and the Gretsch guitar and the Rickenbacker, there's just something fucking special about that period. And the music is unbelievable. You forget at times just how revolutionary these guys were. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know where I was going with that. I was going to go somewhere with that, and I've completely lost the plot. But needless to say, really, really enjoy the sort of revamp of the visuals. And just the way they utilise certain things from the original stuff. You would have this sort of slightly more grainy footage of films. Also, they've been remastered to Blu-ray in modern day, and they're able to bring that in. They're able to bring in live performances from their sort of influences from the early days and bring it in. I think there was what's he called, Stephen? Not Jerry Lee Lewis, what's he called? Singer, pianist, sort of bluesy pianist, black artist. Blanking on his name.
It was a fucking... From The Girl Can't Help It.
No, it was a live performance of him playing. And they took it straight from, I don't know where they took it from, but the quality was fucking unbelievable. So they've enhanced it. And I know the guy that's involved in editing and piecing this version together has been getting a lot of heat off of Beatles fans, but I think they've done a pretty good job. In the main, I'm quite happy with this version. John, if you're not happy, you can go back and watch the other.
I liked the moment when they were showing you The Family Way.
What's he called?
Which was obviously the George Martin, Paul McCartney score. Just looking at that film from the late 60s, it was crystal clear. It was just, I don't know if film is easier to... Little Richard. I'm sure that film is easier to restore and bring up to a better standard because the way it's shot and what it's shot on. And it was the same with Won the War with John Lennon.
So there was a great shot in that of him walking. Yeah. I think with Mal Evans. I'd never seen that before.
It was with Neil.
Oh, it was Neil.
It was Neil. Yeah. There's moments like that throughout it, John. That's just, it blows your mind just how crystal clear they've managed to restore a lot of old footage as well. And we knew that Peter Jackson being involved, it would be a good overall clean-up job.
Love that you're going to lose that girl moment as well, Stephen. That had been heavily cleaned up.
I think
that's where I was going with it. I'll come back to that. That's where I was going with my previous train of thought.
I think in terms of Peter Jackson, his software, it does more good than bad, but the bad bits of using artificial intelligence shows up in some of the
early stuff.
Video and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, but the stuff with the cavern.
The cavern was really jarring. Yeah. Really, like, it looked like paper mache faces. Yeah. Weird looking.
Yeah, Stephen, where I was going back to that, when I said you're going to lose that girl, that's my biggest regret. It's not my regret, because I wasn't the one fucking responsible, but it's my biggest sort of gripe, is the word I'll use. That there wasn't more studio footage and just footage of those guys at that time. So from say, I don't know, 64 through to 66.
Yeah. You're going to lose that girl was from Help.
Wasn't it? Yeah, it's from Help,
It was a set up it wasn't a proper studio.
No. I wondered watching it whether it was actually shot in Abbey Road though.
I don't know.
I'm not entirely sure. I don't think it was.
The hole in the ground, sure.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I'm looking at it just now. It's definitely not fucking Abbey Road. I'm looking at a photograph. But just looking at that and seeing the sort of crispness of that image from the film, it makes you fucking yearn for that era, because that's one of my favourite eras. Lennon's got sideswept hair. I tried to be him back in the day. Growing my hair out to look like that, get a casino, try and be him. So you can tell that guy's my fucking hero. So I would have loved more from that, which is a shame, but sadly you can't manufacture stuff out of thin air. I'm just trying to think, Stephen, if there's more changes. Obviously, I didn't realise they'd kept the Two Virgins cover in the original. Someone's mentioning they don't show it. And obviously we've got the George stuff with the performances in Paris. That gets removed. Slightly gay-looking French boys, or boys shouting, Ringo, Ringo. They've not got that, which is a shame. Because look, there's nothing offensive about saying someone's slightly gay looking. We give it slightly gay looking. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not offensive. Pretty sure.
Paul and Pete burning the condom as well, and
kept out. And that's quite an important thing, Stephen. To admit the condom story with George, because that's what led to him getting kicked out.
A lot of the early stuff was like, let's just move on. Let's get to the point. We need to get to Love Me Do by the end of this episode. That's what it was like. Just let's crack on. But I don't
Stephen, that's fine. That's fine. Ultimately, they have streamlined it, and look, it's fine. It's for a newer generation, and look, for fans who have maybe not got the attention span they once had as well. And look, ultimately, as I keep saying, you have got the original versions back then. They did cut out all that stuff with Carol Harrison and whatnot, and talking about Long John and the Silver Beatles. I'm pretty sure that was all cut out, which is a shame. But it is what it is. Ultimately,
Johnny Gentle, was that cut?
Johnny Gentle, I think that was cut. Yeah, I don't recall seeing any of that. That was all cut. Johnny Gentle and Johnny Gentle. Fuck me. Yeah. Paul Ramone, George. I was about to call him George Parasol, but it wasn't. It was Carol Harrison. I just said that. I'm thinking about John Lennon from Shindig, George Parasol, Paul McCharmley, Ringo Stone. And so obviously the Morecambe and Wise stuff as well. They cut out Moonlight Bay, was it? Yeah. And all that stuff. Which is a shame.
I thought that was great. The reason I liked that, John, was because they did the joke, the build-up to the song. Obviously, You've Only Got a Little Dad.
They kept that in.
One with short, fat, hairy legs. Well, when they sing Moonlight Bay, that's the closing line, with your short, fat, hairy legs on Moonlight Bay, that kind of thing. So I sounded like Partridge. I sang that.
On Moonlight Bay. I can't do Partridge. I've lost the pot. But Stephen, in the main, look, I think it still remains one of the greatest documentaries ever.
Yeah.
But the film, this is a fresh new take. It has been reimagined. Technical stuff, Stephen, we've not really discussed that in a great deal. There was limitations with what they could accomplish with some of the older footage. Obviously, you kind of nailed it in the reaction to the trailer that came out. They've zoomed in a bit with the 90s stuff to give it more clarity and sharpen up, obviously using Jackson's stuff. Yeah. With the older stuff, still issues with aspect ratio, and it is boxy.
Yeah, it kind of shifts, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's limitations, but I think the main looks fucking great. This is for me, the standard for the anthology now. I can't envisage me going back and watching the older version, even though it's got stuff in there that's been omitted. You can maybe find it on YouTube or something. It's no big deal. For me, I think this is still... That's a fucking good job. I think they've done a great job. Real Love, though, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
John, I think we should talk about the singles, because obviously they were a big part of the promotion of the documentary back in the day. And maybe not as much this time round, but certainly for Beatles fans across the world, we were all anticipating that we covered this, John, maybe about 12 months ago when we first heard that Peter Jackson was involved. Obviously, the Now and Then was a triumph in terms of production. I thought it was really well done considering what they were working with. It was interesting to see that in the episode 9 as well, where I know they didn't really touch on Now and Then, but they really touched on the sort of technical issues they had. And Jeff Lynne confirmed, there just wasn't any time to work on that one. Freezer Bird, when was released, the 2025 mix, back in, I think, October. I was quite impressed with it. I will admit, I think out of the three, it's probably my second favourite, but I thought the mix was really good this time round. The 4K video, on the other hand, no, it just there's a bit where George is going into the Apple building in the video, and a lady walks by, and you have to see this. It looks like one of those Stonehenge faces. It's so jarring. It's so she
Easter
looks
Island.
chiseled. It looks weird. It's just bizarre looking. The woman that walks by him, and there's just moments like that. The caverns, obviously, in the video as well. It's a terrific video, John. It's one of the best music videos I've ever seen. But the actual audio, I thought they really did well with John's vocals, and just blending that in with obviously the 1990s version of Paul McCartney and George Harrison's harmonies, and Ringo's drums were fantastic as well. I think they got the mix right. I think they got the balance right in that. Real Love, on the other hand, this is the one that you and I were looking forward to the most. And I remember I was sitting in my car waiting for my daughter at school, and I didn't know it dropped. I think it was in about an hour. I went, oh my God, it's released. So I'll listen to it in the car. I always think listening to music in the car is the best place to do it.
Certainly my sound system in my car. Yeah.
And, listening to it, I just thought, I had to check to see if this was actually an official release from the Beatles, or if it was a fan mix. And I was like, what is this? It sounds like 1996, but at the same time, it sounds like there's a lot of AI manipulation going on in that voice. There's something about the pacing. The pace is off as well. And John's voice sounds so disconnected from the rest of the song. It sounds like he is phoning it in. It's weird.
I think, Stephen, it's because we're that used to having the sort of fattened vocals from Macca and all the stuff going on. And Stephen, I think with Real Love, it's strange that the piano from the actual original recording that Jeff couldn't remove. I think that lends so much to the song.
You just hit the nail on the head there. Paul doubled for John's voice, obviously, to mask a lot of the discrepancies from that original recording. I was watching a video earlier on today about a guy that obviously broke down the song and stripped down the tracks to isolation, and he said that they actually used a different take where John changes one of the phrases.
I noticed it.
Forgotten Rain or something like that.
Yeah.
The one they used for the 2025 mix, Paul couldn't have doubled on it because he used the other word. So that they've had to take Paul completely out. I
understand why they fucking do things like that.
Right now.
Yeah, because I noticed that right away. Gone like some forgotten dream instead of lost like some forgotten dreams. Something that there was a plural, and right away I clicked. I'm like, that's not right.
I don't know
and
why
obviously,
they did that.
I don't understand why you would do that. I understand they're probably going back to the original 90s version in the main and try to remaster that, because that's what this is. It's meant to be a complete remaster of the original stuff. But Giles done a brilliant job. What was it, 2016?
2015.
2015, bringing it out and incorporating a lot of George's licks and guitar work, which just makes the song what it is for me.
Yeah. Pacing as well, it feels more energetic, the 2015 mix.
Feels like a fucking Beatles song.
4 of them are in the room, like really up for this, And as you said, the guitar licks were a big part of it. You mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, John, when we were talking about it, when we were recording the Family Man stuff. We were talking about the build-up to George's iconic solo, it is now. You're not getting the build-up now. It just comes right in. Like it did, obviously, in 1996. I get that. But I think because a lot of people liked the 2015 inclusion of those licks, just those little hints where it was going, where he was going.
Because it's the first time tonally in the song that you hear that kind of guitar work in the original version and in this version they've brought out. But it's primarily acoustic work prior to that. Whereas in the 2015 version, you're getting a little licks, little, like you said, hints of that tone coming in, then it hits and you get the full version in the solo, and then also it kind of bleeds out with that, with the arpeggiated stuff and the slide stuff at the end.
Mix 2015, 2025, 1996, it's a fucking cracking song. It really is.
Oh, it is,
that's not going to take it away from what they've done in the 2025 mix.
Well, you've got a lot of great channels blending and giving you a best of both worlds. So
mix, I mean, it's just a great song. It's such a Beatles song as well. Out of the three of them, probably the most.
Stephen, I tell you what though, I haven't just watched that final episode with also delving into these Beatles recordings. I tell you, man, Freeze a Bird is underrated. It's still that's a great song as well, man. I mean, there's some brilliant vocals and harmonies in there, some great, that is a really good song as well. I mean, I probably do that dirty, comparing it to Real Love. I still think Real Love's the best overall, because it just feels like a Beatles song. But Freeze a Bird is still a really good fucking song. The little guitar parts, there's some really cool stuff in there. Incidentally, that new stuff we got with Macker and Harrison doing the intros, and you get that kind of strange tuning that George is using on his acoustic. I don't know what it is, whether it's a Nashville tuning, or it's a 12-string guitar, but there's a certain chiminess, something different about it. So I underestimated. I mean, I know how fucking good it is. I've heard the song a million times, but it's that's a really good song as well. Yeah. But Stephen, I mean, look, obviously they've made changes. For me, it's still a great song. I'm kind of glad it's not been as well received as Now and Then, or even Freeze a Bird, because you have to rein in some of this usage. I think it's just a little reminder. Technology is brilliant. It's coming on leaps and bounds, but it's not a fucking miracle worker. And ultimately, that's probably the most degraded of the audio tracks when you think of Lennon's vocals, because it is linked heavily to that piano stuff, and it's really hard to separate. Even AI can't do it perfectly. Whereas Now and Then, probably much easier. It's almost studio level, Lennon's vocals. And again, Stephen, I kind of spoke about this, man, when we were talking about Real Love coming out. How I would hope they didn't remove all the backing stuff, the fattening vocals from Macca. Obviously, they have used alternate takes, like you said. But they've kind of went ahead and done that. I understand they're wanting to present Lennon's vocals. But a large part of what made those songs great, and they talk about it in that bonus, that episode 9, was a collaboration of the Beatles again, being in a studio working posthumously with John.
Oh, exactly.
Getting these vocals, these different performances.
George and Paul did the harmonies, and when they came back into the mixing desk, he said they just sound like the Beatles, and that's what you wanted from the three songs. I get they're John songs, but you want that collaboration in there. You want each of them to have their own mark in there, like they did, in the old days. And I think the Real Love 96 and 2015 versions managed to do that, because they managed to maintain and preserve those efforts from George and Paul and Ringo, along with John's voice. But obviously, I understand that this John's voice is sacrificed and overly produced in a good way, for the technical sort of limitations they had back then. But I don't know, I something about John's voice and Freeze a Bird and Real Love that I did like from those mixes, because it was almost ghostly. It reminded us that he wasn't there, and it reminded us of, what a cracking job the other three guys did with Jeff Lynne to make these up to a presentable sort of state, No,
I think he done a great job. And Stephen, it was cool seeing Jeff playing along acoustically.
How many producers did it take to change a light bulb?
What did he say,
18.
15 or 18? Yeah. I know, Stephen, look, and the main look at it is, it's overall, it's a great remaster, and it's a great sort of introduction maybe to some new fans as well to the Beatles content. It's important to bring this content out and have it on a streaming platform where it's accessible to maybe new fans. We've got a whole array of interesting content. I mean, I was on there not that long ago. Get McCartney 1, 2, 3 or something. I maybe have to have a look at that. I don't know what that is. Don't know if that's that.
I'm trying to remember the producer's name. I've watched it, John. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Maybe I have to watch that. But it's good just seeing Let It Be, the original film, Get Back, the anthology, and a platform, a hub, where people can come and watch it. Also, we've got the Macca stuff coming out next year as well. The Wings band, what was it again? Wings band, Man on the Run. Yeah. So it's good for new generations to have access to this, and also for original fans or older fans because I'm not a fucking original fan. I wasn't alive in 1963. Just great to get a remastered version of stuff that
I'm
we've
more
heard for.
excited about that kind of stuff than these films by Sam
Mendes, yeah.
Mendes. Yeah. No, I think he's a terrific filmmaker. I admire his ambition in doing these 4 separate films, you know, from different perspectives. But no one can be John Lennon, no one can be
No.
Paul McCartney, no one can be George, and no one can be Ringo. I prefer the real McCoy when it comes to the 4 of them. I don't. Nowhere Boy was okay, but that was pre-fame, you know, so you can get away with that. I thought Aaron Taylor-Johnson did a fantastic job portraying a young John, but when it comes down to it, I just like the sort of the meat and bones of just watching the actual guys, you know, talking about their lives, talking about their careers, talking about their friendships, their loved ones, their music, their passion, their art, and just everything going forward, you know. And we're blessed, John, because, you know, we've still got Paul and George on this earth, you know, in our time, our living time. You know, I've been around obviously a lot longer than you, and I shared the planet with the 4 of them at one point. But you just got to appreciate we've still got those 2, you know, doing what they're doing. They're still touring, still making music. I'm pretty sure if John and George were still here, they'd be doing the same thing. Perhaps maybe not at the same pace as Macca. They like to garden a lot better than him. You know, but it'd just be great to have those 2 guys around as well.
Yeah, Stephen, I think that's. I think Lennon would have definitely continued on making music. Maybe not to the extent that Macca has, but yeah, I think they'd have toured for sure. He was about to do a tour, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So that's sad. That's the sad part. You're not going to get to see what the other 2 would have done moving forward. Well, we've seen what George done, but post 2001.
There's a bit in that anthology where they're talking about obviously the death threats and all that kind of thing, you know, and it, you know, obviously it just spiraling and just the mania and all that. And there's a moment in it that always
Planes,
gives
wings
me
on fire.
When John says, you know, when I'm plugged in, I don't feel like they're getting at me.
Yeah.
And then it fades out. I think that was actually a deliberate directorial choice, just to foreshadow his sort of, you know, murder in a way. You know, I still get affected with that, and I still, you know, every December I think about that, you know, and just I don't really like to talk about obviously their deaths or anything like that, and certainly not in that fashion, but it's just the music that we missed out on, you know, from him, and obviously from a personal point of view, his sons and his wife, you know, losing, you know, and all they've got. I think it was Giles Martin that said, you know, in an interview, Yoko once said to me, you know, John's just a voice now, you know, and it's the same with George now, sadly, you know, it happens, you know, but it's just one of those things. We've just got to appreciate that we were here, you know, in that time when they were here, you know, and hundreds of years from now, if the human race survives, you know, people will be talking about the Beatles like people talk about Mozart and stuff like that just now, you know, but to be in and around them as living people while we're on this planet as well is a blessing. It really is.
That's why it was a blessing to see Macca live.
Yeah.
You got to see a living Beatle performing. That was a special thing.
You were the same. I was just trying to take it in. I was trying to listen to music, but I was just staring at him.
It was a fucking great night as well, wasn't it? It was just a great day.
Yeah,
a rare,
fantastic,
brilliant summer's day in Scotland. Blue skies, having a pint,
a good
watching
time
Macca. Oh, fuck, I know. I mean, it wasn't as sunny the other day, for a whole multitude of fucking reasons. Certainly a lot better back in 2010.
Funny days.
Fucking horrendous the other day.
Strange days indeed.
Fucking right it is.
I haven't seen anything like it.
Oh, God. But, oh, God, yeah. That's for damn fucking sure. I was trying to think of something to say in French and I couldn't think of it because I'm not French, of course. So, I daren't. I used to do that back in the day and say things like je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
And va va voom and whatnot. And it's like, You doing your fucking coin, you're Scottish. Sit down, behave.
Mine's fine, higgle figgle.
Stephen, that's another thing. For me, they never lingered on the German stuff anywhere near as much as they did in the original. That was slightly disappointing.
No,
Maybe we got it, but not.
I think they skimmed it.
Yeah, they did.
I think they just wanted to crack on, you know.
I can't think of anything else that was cut that is of note, or anything else that was added that was of note. So I'm just going to go ahead and round it up at that point, Stephen. I don't know if we're doing ratings here. I think we have rated it before, didn't we? I mean, I've already gave a Ghost away. It's the greatest documentary ever for me. Music documentary.
Exactly. A+.
So, the fucking 10. A+, 10 out of 10 for me.
Type of thing.
And if you want to see John's Didgeridoo out on the Two Virgins poster, then you can go to the original version.
Oh, see, you've got the Daily Mail in there.
That's good. What was it he says again? He says to John, we've got to deal with this or something like that.
The phone ring.
Exactly. you only for fucking 5 minutes or something like that. I can't remember. He made some remark. But Ringo, that's a shame. That's the only thing, Steve, I'd say. They did cut out some of the humorous stuff with Ringo. Ringo's a funny fucking guy.
Yeah.
Funny guy. I don't recall seeing the Neil stuff with Ringo when he went to LA. Perhaps it was there, but I don't recall seeing him kind of walking around sightseeing. I think it was Neil with Ringo in LA. So that was fucking good.
Observatory, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In LA, yeah. Yeah, it was there before, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the first time I watched, obviously not the first time I fucking watched the original version, for fuck's sake. But I noticed that, there's Neil. Must have missed that originally. Stuff with Brian as well, that's the final thing I'll say.
LA Raiders cap.
Some of Ringo's get up was fucking horrendous. He's wearing some horrendous shirts. Just horrific gear. George is a little bit more refined, although even then he's doing double denim at times and it's not even good denim. They're all very much of the time. Macca's gear is a bit horrendous at times as well. Macca, Stephen, I said it to you before we started, Macca's, for a guy, it's very cool. He doesn't have come across as a bit of a fucking, don't know, unk is the word these days. Even back then, he was doing things like this. It's like, what are you fucking doing, Macca? Come on, you're a Beatle. Paul McCartney.
It must be nerves.
I mean, Stephen, we go back to like this boy and Harrison's laughing at him and like, stuff from the 70s, some of the mannerisms and whatnot. So, I don't recall seeing the Yesterday stuff in Japan as well. That's another thing. That's another new performance. Maybe again I missed it, but that was new. So,
I felt that you know, when the original documentary, when they were going through each album, it kind of just flowed like a conversation, whereas it felt more segmented.
Yeah.
You know, in this version, like
by all accounts, they moved the Elvis stuff forward in this version, so it was early. It was prior to the Shea Stadium performance in this, whereas it didn't meet until after. So they definitely have rejigged, and it's not as chronological. Stephen, the stuff with Brian as well, it made me search Brian Epstein up, and it blew my fucking mind. I probably knew this already, but the guy was 32.
Yeah.
When he passed. 32. 32. George Martin was 38 when he started working with the Beatles.
They looked a lot older, didn't they?
Fucking hell. I keep saying this, and it's a journey we all go on as Beatles fans, but you kind of chart where you are.
Yeah.
When I first started properly listening, I was like a teenager. I was like 16, 17.
That, you know, for a footballing term, John, I'm older than Jock Stein was when he went to Lisbon. He looks like he's about 70. You know, just the way, it was just diet, pollution, you know, everything. You know, people didn't drink water back then.
Fuck, I know. They were drinking gin.
You know, the Scottish water was good back then.
I know. Probably better than what it is just now, and it's pretty fucking good now. Oh, but Stephen, I was old. I'm much older than Brian Epstein. It blows my fucking mind. And there was a point when I first started listening, I was younger than what they were when they were floating around Hamburg. Now I'm fucking, as age has its way, I'm getting progressively older. I'm nearly at the Lennon Dakota era. I'm at the Lennon Dakota era.
John's just got his green card.
He's bacon. We're post Walls and Bridges at this point, aren't we? Because that was 75, so he'd have been 35. I think we're beyond the fucking weekend, the lost weekend in LA. He's now in his bacon era when he's going to Japan for holidays and whatnot. I don't know where I am with Macca. I mean, what would Macca have been when he was manager? It would have been 1979.
Yeah.
So he's already well into wings and whatnot. Fucking mind-blowing.
Yeah, he's nearly done with wings.
Yeah, he's nearly into It's a Drag. 1980. Yeah. Fucking hell. Yeah. Crazy. But no, look. Yeah, fuck yeah. I loved them dancing around that, the whole fucking weed stuff. I think he's talking about moving from fucking, what was it they called it? The poppers or some shit like that. The amphetamines to, what was it he said again? He mentioned that, he was talking about weed clearly.
Have some more tea, you bastards.
That was a good moment, that was a good fucking moment, Beer. Trying to make history or whatnot, and they'll want to fucking clock off at 5 o'clock. He mentioned something about, fucking, I can't remember it, man, it doesn't fucking matter. He basically said some funny term for weed. Something cigarettes. Fucking medicinal, fucking herbal cigarettes or some shit like that. You're talking about fucking weed, Magga.
Is it jazz cigarettes?
Yeah, that was it, jazz cigarettes. What, you're talking about weed? Everybody knows you do weed, Macca. You still do it, mate. You're saying you don't, you fucking do it. It's alright, nobody cares. Doesn't matter, allegedly. But we are going to round it up, man. We're waffling here. We're waffling. Try to round it out to an hour. We've got beyond here. Yes, get in there. What is your thoughts on the Beatles Anthology 2025 remaster, re-release? What is your thoughts on these singles that they released? Share your thoughts down below on the new stuff, the omitted stuff. Slightly gay looking boys shouting Ringo, Ringo. I've got a cat called Ringo for those that don't know, and on the nightly, I will say that. Ringo, Ringo, slightly gay looking fringe boys shouting Ringo. I say it all the time. I don't know if that's offensive. It's not meant to be. And it's blame George Harrison if it is. I'm just saying his words verbatim, so not my fucking fault, it's George's fault. Share your thoughts down below about anything, in the comment section. Like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get notifications straight to your eyes for future content like this. And until next time, look at me so professional looking down at the stream deck. All that's left to be said is thank you for watching this, and bye-bye.